Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Edufuturists podcast. It is, I don't know where we are. It could be whatever month in the year. What day is it? Some days it's raining, some days it's snowing, some days it's frosty, some days it's sunny. We don't even know what it is. This is the UK, right? Welcome to it. And for those of you who are listening abroad, hopefully you have a much better normal season than what we have in the UK currently. We are really, really pleased to be joined in the studio with a guest we've been trying to get on the podcast for a while, and life just happens, right? Busyness of businesses and families, and rightly so, those things come first. And now we have got to a point where we are going to be interviewing our guest in a moment. And so we'll let her introduce herself. But Steve, is there anything you want to tell anybody that's happening in the world, your world? Anything good news, bad news, average
boring
news?
as ever. I'll be as boring as ever. If they'll listen to it for the next hour, my boring Dorset tone. So no, let's dive into the rabbit hole and let's get started.
Amazing. Well, we are joined in the studio. If you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you're watching it, you'll see that somebody's waiting patiently in the background. But if you're just listening, you'll just think it's just us two again. But it isn't. We are joined by Sofia. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about you and how you've got to where you are before we talk about how you are trying to shake up the future of education?
Yes, great. I'm so happy to be here, Ben and Steve. And it's nice that we finally found the time to connect. Feel like that we are kindred spirits in the ecosystem. So how did I get here? I mean, like, what a rough and tumble journey down many rabbit holes, actually. One of my favorite expressions is rabbit hole. I started a company, speaking of expressions and words, called Mrs. Wordsmith. And I'm kind of a kitchen table mompreneur. So started with a problem that I felt very acutely that my own kids faced, which was, needing to improve their vocabulary in an accelerated way. And I just set around to it. And before I knew it, we had a growing, thriving company, global penetration, big deals with publishers. And we had impact studies that showed that we could increase children's vocabulary by 50%. It was an exciting journey. Our thesis was that engagement was the issue. And so we combined Hollywood style illustrations with kind of back in the day, natural language processing and, knowledge graphing on words to try and understand what words kids needed to learn. So when the AI thing hit, we were already, or I was at least, and my chief architect really well placed to understand what was happening with LLMs because I'd spent so much time looking at words and knowledge graphs and how they worked and how language worked in a predictive nature. When we taught vocabulary back in the day, I mean, this was 8 years ago now, we looked at something called common collocations. So this is how you predict raging storm, raging debate, raging bull. These are actually predictive. So again, we understood the LLM thing instantaneously when it came about. And then when I left Mrs. Wordsmith, I founded Study Hall AI. And that was an AI first company. We won 2 Innovate UK grants back to back, one for knowledge graphing and one for deep reading, which we can talk about later. But we were really quick to leverage kind of generative AI in an advanced way. And now we're rolling out globally a pretty exciting product suite, which I hope I'll get to talk about today.
So talk to me about this. The phrase that you've talked about, the flipping between and the spinning of plates and the movement between one organisation to another and setting up the what you probably perceived as side hustles, and then as me and Ben will know, and what does that look like? How does that look like? Because so many people that are in education, around education, will have an idea but won't want to take it to fruition, or can't take it to fruition, and time and investment and knowledge and all those kind of things. So how did you shuffle it as a parent into the step, and also why did you want to do that?
Yeah,
Why is it so
know.
important to spin those plates and move it?
I know it's such a good question. Look, I have a few things that I really live by, and I think they're just I couldn't change them if I tried, unfortunately. One of them is something I call the blood call, which is when you just feel so passionately about something that impacts your kids and you know it impacts every kid. And so I just feel like something had to be done about it. And for me, it's always started, study hall started the exact same way, um, with what I call the blood call. And what's beautiful about it, and I think it's a beautiful expression that someone told me years ago. I mean, you'll do anything to help your kids, right? Is that it is an immediate community builder. Because once you do something out of true love, you connect with people and you help them solve their problems and you build these really deep communities. So that becomes this mutually self-reinforcing kind of mission and that kind of thing. I mean, it's like being good at a sport, right? Like once you're good at it, you just keep going. I think the other thing, and this is a hard one, my husband has, we always used to give people words because of Mrs. Wordsmith, is, what's the word that defines you? And I think there are more than one person in the world that would have said relentless. I don't know what your words are that define you, but you have to be relentless as an entrepreneur because it's hard. Like there's just, everyone knows it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done. And it never gets easy, even when it gets better. It's just different. It's always hard. So relentless is the other one. But I think passion and relentless. And then I think the last point is I'm super kind of bookish myself. So I read incessantly and I'm a self-skilled kind of NLP expert. I'm self-taught LLM research. Like everything I know because I read, a couple hundred pages a day. My advice to kids is read. And so I think that being able to self-teach is extremely important, which we know is relevant in the age of AI, right? So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I absolutely couldn't agree. And Steve will be smirking to himself in there as well. When somebody says that they read incessantly, that automatically makes me go, yeah, that's me. I find myself in that way as well. Even in a digital world where everybody's saying, oh, you should just listen to it or you should read it on Kindle. And I get it all, but I just love having a book and I love like getting immersed in that space, whatever type of book that is. I was on a stag do recently, and I took a book with me, and the lads were like looking at me as if to say, "What have you got a book for?" I said, "Well, if there's downtime, I read a book," and it was about crypto and blockchains and the future of AI and that's, and they're like looking at me and going, I cannot believe that this is what you do. I love football. I love like other things as well, but like I do love reading, so I do hear that, and I also love the fact that you talk about how words really matter. We've had a few conversations in that space, whether that's words that you speak over yourself, but also the language models that we're talking about. For many of us, many people, they may well not have made that connection to that. We're talking about large language models in AI, so it's about words, and so understanding how those things work and not just like, well, how do you write a really good prompt? It's way more than that. And
It's
so,
way deeper than that. And
yeah.
everyone, AI literacy is literacy. And, I mean, Jensen Huang says this, that what matters are two things. It's domain expertise, which catalyzes critical thinking, and it's being able to read. And all of these titans of industry, I mean, from, Steve Jobs to Jensen Huang and Bill Gates, they're avid readers. And that fuels your critical thinking. So we're on the same page, Ben.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah, I was going to say I am a reader, not as avid as Ben, and probably not as I listen in very different forms. So I'll do podcast, I'll audiobook, and when I go out on long rides or long runs, often I'll listen to a book.
So nice.
The annoying bit is though that I constantly like, right, I need to go back to that, and I'm looking down and I'm like just tapping it, going, right, I just need to go back to that section and just make some notes and some thoughts on that section, because you can't put a little note in the book, or you can't do all those kind of things. So yeah, and definitely one I can't even go flick down and tap it on my, especially when I'm on the bike. Running, I'm a bit more aware. Bike, literally, I'm like the worst. You're like, this is why they don't allow phones in cars, especially in the UK, because I'm like that on the bike if I ever go anywhere near my phone or anything else. So yeah, and I suppose, so you've taken it from, you mentioned study hall a little bit right at the beginning. Let's walk through what it is. Why did you set it up? I think the key bit for me to delve into is the why. Do you know why did you think in the wave of AI and the large language model products, that this was a need that AI would potentially solve? Because
Yeah.
ultimately, I'm guessing some of the challenges that you will talk about and the why will be challenges that have probably faced us for a long period of time before, and AI now is potentially the solution for it, or your product is. So maybe let's start there, if that's okay.
No, it's a great question. And there's a lot to unpick there because as you rightly said, there's the why I started it, why AI is the solution, and then why we may be a better solution than others out there, like just going straight to an LLM, to a large language model, because that has to be addressed as well. I think it's an important question that everybody's grappling with right now. Why I started it, well, it actually the thread runs through all three of those. So um, I I believe that effectively everybody wants results, right? And education is there so we can achieve literacy results, assessment results, critical thinking results. There's always an end game that somebody wants to get to next, and so because of that, we don't have a lot of emphasis placed on outcomes in the ed tech sector and even in schools, and we don't have a lot of accountability. And that lack of accountability has caused a lot of leakage. And the sad part of that is it's wasting kids' time. And, I want my kids out there to kick a football as much as they can, to be interacting with people. And so when they're learning, I want to make sure it's working, right? There's nothing sadder than looking at a child who is at the books all the time and doesn't get anywhere. And we all know that happens, right? They put the time in and they're like, well, I'm stupid. Well, they're not stupid. This is our problem as adults, right? And it's our systemic problems. So when we set out to create Study Hall, accountability, knowledge graphing, research-based design, which we got our research-based design kind of badge from Digital Promise within the first year. Those were really important to us. And I think this differentiated us from the sector of wrappers where everybody was just trying to create a tool. And it took us longer as a result, by the way. We've been quite slow and methodical behind the scenes and not really shouting about what we've built yet. That's all to come. But we really started with, okay, mapping the curriculum in granular detail, using that as a knowledge graph, and then saying, well, what outcomes are we going to further? We're going to further high stakes assessments. We're going to further reading, which actually underpins all high stakes assessments. And eventually we're going to further maths. And so what Study Hall does is that it is a reading, research, and writing platform that has already, by the way, proven efficacy. We've proven that we've increased reading age by 9 months and 12 weeks across our current users that have been on the platform for a year. And we've done that using fairly advanced AI techniques. That's kind of the short answer for what we are and how we do it. Maybe I'll pause there for a second.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that grabbed our attention, it's not the only thing, but one of the things that definitely grabbed our attention was how you talk about AI for learners. So it's not just for learners, because I know it can be used by tutors and it can be used in different ways. But one of the biggest challenges, and I can hear that intimated in where you were going with this as well, is making the technology safe and efficient for students to use. I've done lots of digging in this space, and we wrote a piece recently, and we seem to talk about it everywhere we go now. I don't know where it came from. It just was one of those things that we said, and we use that phrase "agency with guardrails." And all over your website, I can and the product that we're talking about here is the word guardrails. We're not just saying, "Here you go, let's give unfettered access, unbridled access to ChatGPT," or whatever else the names are that are out there. We're saying we need guardrails, and what Study Hall is helping in that space is creating a safe platform that's been accredited by multiple different Digital Promise, Google, lots of other places, to say that it's safe to use with learners. So that seems like a fundamental part of why and how you get this right. Is that fair?
100%. And I prefer to call them garden rails because it is a bit of a walled garden ecosystem and it does give students agency. So we have no issue with learners being all over the platform. They can go from Creator Hall to Writing Hall to Reading Hall to our deep research tools to our tool garden. They have over 100 different tools they can use at any time, all of which have the following things in common. They're aligned to the curriculum in both the UK and the US. So, as a parent, as a teacher, as a student, you never have to worry within reason about a hallucination or about whether you're getting the right content because we don't want kids to waste their time. Let's be real. They should be out kicking a football, right? Or drawing or painting or doing whatever, playing with dolls, whatever makes them happy. So that's the first thing. We tune the AI. So our AI works on 4 reading ages. I think we're one of the few companies in the world that does this. So if you are 7 to 9, you are getting an AI that speaks to you as a 7 to 9-year-old, right? When you go to ChatGPT, it speaks one language, it's adult. And that cognitive dissonance causes cognitive overload for children, and it makes it more difficult for them to learn. So our reading age or our conversational age is 7 to 9, 9 to 11, 11 to 14, and 14 to 18. And all of the content on our platform is geared towards that. We've got a knowledge base that's unparalleled. We've got partnerships with Penguin Random House, HarperCollins, MIT Technology Review. So our AI coaches for reading and writing and research can leverage all of that amazing content, which is grounded as a ground truth source, right? And you don't get that as a wrapper. So there are just so many benefits to what we do. And it becomes even more nuanced because within the tools, it can speak to you. You know, if you are researching something, our deep research tool encourages you to do more research. It helps you build that critical thinking skill. But if you're writing something, it helps coach you on writing. So the role of the AI changes within each of the tools. And all of this is designed to give students a more engaging experience. And so far, our feedback has been, I mean, we get these feedback reports instantaneously. Sometimes they're complaints, but a couple of them recently have come through as, I want to talk to the AI longer. I'm having such a good conversation. And, you know, you don't get that with kids. You don't get that desire to want to go deeper very often. So that's something we're really proud of.
Yeah, I think what's great about it is that the key fundamentals of what you just said. I think we talked about often with a conference not so long ago in regards to education being about filling minds of information, but actually finding passions and using AI to maybe develop, probe, and prompt and pull out those passion bits in those areas of focus, rather than just generally curriculum is not a guided pathway. It's something that you generally have to do. You get electives, you know, the older that you get, but generally from a very young age, you are prescribed and given exactly the medicine that you have to take. And it's great to hear that actually AI can then start to think, right, well, how can it pull passions out? Because what I'm interested in is, does your platform and the education system as a whole then allow those passions to just balloon up and take over some space, so actually the things that they aren't passionate about still have to do becomes lesser? Is that the opportunity in the thought? Otherwise, it just becomes a tool to guide through a very similar path. And I'm sure all three of us on the call all agree that, well, education has to change in regards to the curriculum and the pathways that we provide young people anyway.
So I'm going to tell you a couple cute stories, but something interesting. Because core to our platform is this concept of reading and creating, we know that we give kids agency, right? They can go and read. We've got STEM reading. They can read any one of hundreds of articles that interest them. They can go on to our deep writer and they can write a blog as if they were in a Substack. They can generate images. They can put different size images, creating characters in a graphic novel. They could write for a year on this platform a 200-page novel with images. That's how powerful it is, with the writing coach that guides them along the way, with transcripts that get submitted to adults, to parents and educators, to make sure that nothing inappropriate was happening. Every session is transcripted and monitored. But the point is that within these garden rails, as I want to call them, you can do anything. And so we had a really fun demo the other day at a set of schools in London where I was the first time I ever tried it. I asked our deep research tool for kids, does Santa Claus exist? And it was a risky thing to do because I'd never tested that before. So as you can imagine, being a research tool, it went into this entire long explanation of the history of St. Nicholas. And it pretty much said that Santa Claus may not exist. So when I went back to the office, home office, I tuned the guardrails to make space for make believe, for imagination, and for allowing childhood myths to be in parallel with facts. And so now our tool says, well, actually, Santa Claus does exist. And for children, it's a very important thing. And it's got wonderful images. And now a child can debate the existence of Santa Claus with the AI in a safe space. What are they doing when they do this? They're building critical thinking. They're using our research tools. They're searching. They're getting citations. They're building timelines. We have an @timeline function. They're using tables to compare data, but all of this within the context of what they find interesting.
And that level of context and that level of agency, that level of exploration is really important, isn't it? I think where a young person, well, Steve mentioned there about that prescription, and this is what you are taught, the ability then to use AI with their own interests in a safe space with these guiding rails becomes then, hold on a minute, like the learners are taking autonomy, they're taking some choice in what they do, and then when we keep finding that young people may disengage with education, just because they're in the room doesn't mean they're in the room, as we well know.
Yes.
This as a methodology allows them to take some ownership, doesn't it? And I think for me, I'm a girl dad, 11-year-old and almost 15, and as I'm watching them grow, where they've got some choice in something, it it's powerful. So my eldest has just taken a bit of an interest in climbing. So she's always been swimming. She's been read. She does lots of cool stuff. She wants to be a doctor. Like I'm like, I don't know where that's come from, but it's just come from somewhere. In fact, a medic in the army, which is where she wants to go, which just came from nowhere. We're not a military family, but now she started showing a little bit of interest in climbing. So I'm saying, okay, well, how do we help her to develop that as a skill set, and what things is she going to, not just saying, all right, we're going to buy her all the kit. It's about helping her explore that a little bit more. And it's surely that's what we want to do. And I know what the tool that you're trying to do here and the tools that you've got here are helping like fan that flame with the tools that will help into that space.
Look, you're a great dad, by the way. It's everything I think with kids and raising great learners and students and kids is basically 50% agency and 50% the scaffolding. And that's what you're doing, right? You're letting her explore what she wants to do, but then you're going to help her get there. You're going to help breadcrumb the way, and that's what we do. And just to add to it, like if you're a teacher or parent, this isn't just free exploration, even though we make it seem like this. Everything a child does on our platform is tracked because we have a knowledge graph, and you receive reports. So they may be having a debate about Santa Claus, but we're tracking their vocabulary, we're tracking their knowledge acquisition, we're tracking their inference skills, we're tracking their critical thinking skills, and we're providing reports, which is why I believe we are one of the only companies out there that already has proven efficacy. right, as an AI company, because that's what we focused on first, right? We want kids to have a good time. And we did this at Mrs. Wordsmith too, Hollywood artists. But guess what? We got 50% results. So my formula is engagement plus results.
Do you feel I'm just thinking and pausing and trying to reflect more. So based on, do you think that education is shifting and should shift? Do you see a transition from normal education that is so focused on grades and a tangible thing to actually focusing on the development of everything that you've just talked about there, of agency and passion and all those kind of things, rather than just grades, that holistic learner that isn't just about a curriculum and the passing of grades
So
to the next step?
So, I mean, this may not be a very popular opinion, but I believe in results. So I don't have an issue with grades. I have an issue with always teaching to the test, and a system like our GCSE system, by the way, where, I mean, my son recently sat 30 exams over a period of 6 weeks. I don't get the point of that. That's just like the Hunger Games. And some of those exams were, when I dug into them, were interesting. The history exam I thought was kind of interesting. There was really cool content, and there were some great skills you were learning. And I do believe that knowledge acquisition is critical for critical thinking. You just read anything from Daniel T. Willingham. But then some of those exams were rote learning for the sake of rote learning. And there was just too much of it. There's just too much of it, right? But why? Why 30 papers over 6 weeks? And so that kind of systemic teaching to the test, where nothing is learned over 2 years other than can we hit those benchmarks, has to evolve. But that doesn't mean we throw out the baby with the bathwater and go all AI willy-nilly, because that's not going to work either. And I feel like there has to be a middle ground.
And that middle ground genuinely is a beautiful place, I think,
It is
or
a beautiful
potentially
place.
can be. So we have probably been misrepresented or misrepresented ourselves in being anti-exams, and we're not. When we see exams as high stakes and as the only assessment method, and performance tables being the based on just on exam results being the be all and end all, that's the bit, and that's where we're talking about agreement there, and we're definitely in agreement. And I also think, but there is a place for it as part of a holistic development of a learner, and that's I'll state that on record again for those people who may thought that about our podcast. We're not anti-assessment organisations and awarding bodies at all, because they are
No.
part of something. It's when that's the only piece, isn't it? And interestingly, when you are in a world now where the passing of an exam is not going to differentiate you from a machine that can pass that exam. What's going to make you stand out in that space is your ability to make critical decisions, be able to not critical decisions against an AI, but I'm talking about critical decisions that are relevant and contextual, and when to use it, when not to use it. So in that space, then, do you think education is shifting? And are you confident that it's shifting? Because obviously you're in a space now where your core product, but also your philosophy is not yet mainstream, but there is a lot of weak signal both here in the US and elsewhere that there could be a new way of doing this. And do you think
Yeah.
that's
So
possible?
I think that okay, there's several barriers in the road ahead, and I think we're going to clear all of them. And really quickly, by the way, look at how much we've cleared in the past 18 months. All right. So the direction of travel is set, and the velocity of travel is not slowing down. All right. And that's going to be good for us in a way, because nothing better than a good old forced change, right? Just get it over with. So I think this is a catalyst long coming that we all need, even if we're a little bit uncomfortable with it. I think that on the exam thing, I want to double click on that a bit. I'm not convinced that summative assessments are the way forward. You can do quite a bit with formative. On our application, you could teach GCSE English, have Shakespeare, annotate the entire book, have the AI review the annotations, have the teacher review the AI, have the AI quiz you on the book, ask the AI anything about the book you didn't understand, about a theme, about some piece of conflict, in Romeo and Juliet or in Macbeth or in any of these things. And if you were doing that over the course of a year, I don't know why you would need to take a summative assessment after that. You would have demonstrably proven that you knew Macbeth inside out way better than, a 2-hour exam with a sheet of paper under duress, right? Which probably doesn't capture a child's ability. So I think that assessment is going to shift. What's the barrier? It's the boards. They make an awful lot of money, as we know. AQA makes about 70 million a year on this system. And so they've got to figure out how to shift this revenue base into something that is a little bit more working in the direction of travel of AI. And that to me is not getting AI to mark all the exams. That's not the solution. That's what's going to happen next, because it's kind of inevitable. So I think that that's one thing. And I think that the other issue is that we've got to keep figuring out how to modernize the curriculum, right? We're still using very old content, very dated worksheets. Even the wrapper tools that are out there, they're just giving you more dated worksheets, right? That weren't really working anyway. So, someone in the government has to figure out how to update this curriculum and our targets. And when those two things happen, the rate of change is going to be bigger. I think in the meantime, companies like myself, companies like Alpha School, a whole bunch of other amazing apps in the ecosystem, there are really good high quality AI companies out there right now, are just going to shift the dialogue. And I think that parents will probably lead the way in trying to help their kids because they can move faster than students.
Yeah, in the UK or in England, they say it's 6 years to change a curriculum at Ofqual, and redesign. 6 years.
Yeah. So
that has to speed up.
it has to speed up, and I think you'll see pockets of America changing faster. Asia's already changing pretty quickly. I mean, we'll get there in the UK, but it's going to take time. I have nothing against a classical education, by the way. As I said, we've got all of Shakespeare's works on our application, plus every other classic that you can read with an AI reading coach to help you power through it. But it's the assessment system and the way in which we're teaching that needs to evolve so that we can be more engaging and more efficient with our kids' time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think it may be worth talking about this, tying that to this idea about assessment grief. And I know that you're quite passionate about that. Maybe for our listeners who aren't aware of or have seen what you've written about that or what other people have talked about, maybe tell us a little bit about what you mean by that or what's
Well,
meant by that.
I've written so much about it. I'm not even sure which one of these that you're referring to, but I think that are you talking about the stages of grief? Or are you talking about just okay? So I mean I think that there are stages of assessment grief and that we are in the final stages of it where we are realizing that it's not working and we're fighting it. And we're fighting it hard. And that's what we're seeing in the industry right now. There's some people who are throwing their arms up saying, I don't want AI anywhere near the classroom. And there are some people who are embracing it full on. And I'd go as far as to say, I think that both camps are making a mistake. I really do believe in the measured middle road. And that is that throwing AI into the classroom willy-nilly is not a good idea. We've read recently about the hallucinations that are out there. And that actually makes me laugh. I was talking to one of my lead AI engineer about this morning, and I'm like, "Why is this suddenly breaking news?" He's like, "I don't know. We've known this. Like, this is not a new study. We knew this from the beginning. Like, it's a mathematical certainty. It's a predictive model. Therefore, it by definition hallucinates. Like, this is not new information." But suddenly it's become new information. So I think going all in on AI comes with its risks. Equally, pretending it doesn't exist is also a problem. But I think this time next year we will already see measured AI implementation across every classroom. We're already seeing it. Suddenly, we're getting tons of inbound, and people are asking for how do they implement deep research, how do they implement, AI coaches for reading and writing? How do they use AI tools to improve assessment outcomes? So I think it's happening. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
So in terms of the development, and I know that you've mentioned some opportunities and some next steps and some things that you're working on and you're excited to share. Is there any particular things around or like the movement between school and next steps or any of those bits that you might want to talk
Yeah,
about?
it's super exciting. I mean, our whole summer, there was no summer at study hall. Everyone worked all summer because of College Copilot. So we are launching in 2 weeks. My son is going to be the first customer, actually. So he say if it's good enough for him, I hope it's good enough for everyone. But because I worked very hard to like perfect this, but College Copilot is our university entrance admissions and testing application for US universities for now. We will broaden that for the UK. We've got some exciting partnerships on the UK side that we're working through. But for the US market, everyone knows that the SAT test and the ACT test are very big and important tests on the road to getting into college. So is the whole research process. How do you know where to go? How do you learn more about that college? How do you understand what to write on your application and where that college fits into who you are as an applicant? And then the writing process. How can you get some support writing essays? Right now, parents are spending, I calculated the average middle class parent, $5,000 just to get their kids into college. That's just for the application process, right? And that's the starting point. As you go up, it can be 10, 20, even $100,000. We've all seen those scandalous movies where people paid anything to get their kids into a school. And we're trying to basically compress that into an application that costs a significantly lower amount and helps kids on that journey. So that's releasing in 2 weeks. It's got an AI tutor for the test. It's got unlimited content. We've got advisors from the SAT College Board, the ACT, Stanford, Dartmouth. We have a partnership with IMG for sports recruiting, where we love our sport. Uh, 400,000 kids apply a year to get a sports scholarship to an American university. That's a big part of the culture. We want to help all those kids as well. So we're really excited about this product. We think it's going to be best in class for college admissions and admissions testing, essay writing, and we think it's going to be fun. We want kids to have fun researching. It even will tell you what the weather is like in different cities, what's dorm life like, what's the social life, is it a really fraternity based culture? Our deep research tool will tell you anything you need to know. How many times should you take the SAT test? What's a good score? I think you get the idea.
I like that, and I like how this is kind of helping young people, and these are obviously a little bit older than some of the clients of some of the products that you're using, but realistically, it's that whole AI enhanced everything, and that's
Yes.
this is the piece. It's not a replacement; it's an enhancement if you work with it, and we acknowledge where that goes. on the podcast, we always finish with quickfire questions. Now, these
Yeah.
are
You
just
can tell me
our.
what they were. I'm not ready. No.
No, see, that's the point. We do it to try and see where people are. And we've got 3. So I'll do the first one. Steve will do the second one, and then I'll do the last one, just as a kind of roundup. And we'll put all the links to Study Hall, to College Copilot as these come out, and to follow Sophia in the show notes as well. But here are the 3 questions.
Okay.
So the first one is: if schools were judged like restaurants,
Oh, I
okay,
love it already.
based on how much customers actually enjoyed the experience, what
Yes.
would change overnight?
What would have to change overnight? That's such a good question. Um, I think, to use the analogy, the food would have to taste a lot better. So, I mean, and the ambiance would have to be better. So, why do you go to a restaurant? You want great food and amazing ambiance. Well, the ambiance is not great, a little bit underfunded, I would say. As you walked into a few state schools, you might be a little bit depressed. And the food, or the curriculum diet as we speak, is not very appetizing. So it's curriculum and facilities, both of which are hard to change. We love our teachers. We love our teachers. They're all good souls. It's curriculum and facilities.
What's the most dangerous myth that educators tell themselves to avoid real change?
Wow. Um, That's a really good one. I think it's that they can't do it. I think that educators tell themselves that they don't have time, that they're victims, that they don't know how to use AI, that they need training. That they don't need any of that. They need the will, and they will gain the skill. Just do it. They don't need all the scaffolding that they've been told they need. They need a little bit of time and 20 pounds a month.
Love it. Last one: if a 10-year-old asked you why they have to go to school, what would you say?
Uh, that is a really good question. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I've been fairly happy with my kids' journey. It's had its bumps, but I think today, if I had a 10-year-old and he asked me that, I would have a difficult decision. On the one hand, I'm very inspired by schools like Alpha School and how they're trying to change education. On the other hand, I don't have any proof that they're addressing the foundational reading, writing, and math skills that I so believe in as the bedrock of critical thinking. And so I think that I would be torn between the status quo and accepting the new. And I think I'm probably like every parent in that regard. If this were 5 years from now, my hope is that I would just say Alpha School, because they demonstrated that they can do both. I'm curious what you would say.
People don't ask us questions. You're getting confused here. We discussed this off
And
air
that
on a
was a
regular
really
basis.
honest answer, by the way. I just put my head inside my own kids for a second, and I'm torn. I'm really torn.
Yeah, and that's it. It's I don't think we talk about it's not just one thing, is it? It's not just one size. And I think that's been it's been a great podcast. It's been a great conversation, because ultimately it's not AI is going to completely remove all educators' jobs and all that kind of thing. It's that nuance, it's that addition, it's that intertwining of what education, the good bits that we need to remain, and the new bits and the evolution from some of the
Yes.
new things that will thrive in the new world. But ultimately, it needs to be in context, environment, and where it sits. Then actually, there might be more of one thing based on the learner or the setting or the community, all those kind of things. It's been a wonderful conversation. It's been a pleasure. I think this is probably the first of
You
many.
guys are the best. Yeah, I think it's the first of many. We've always had, as I said, we're kindred spirits. So in the ecosystem. So I look forward to our next conversation, and thank you for asking such good questions.
It's all right.
Thank
Ben
you.
does all that bit. I just turn up. So yeah, we appreciate Ben as well. But yeah, been a blast. Don't forget,
Okay.
everybody, all the links will be in the show notes. If you haven't got your tickets for Uprising, Ben will tell you in a second because I don't remember websites where you need to go. I will put the links in the show notes. By this point, nominations might even be out. All of those kind of things are accelerating, and the news comes thick and fast. So go to the show notes, go get your links, go get your tickets, go get everything, absorb everything that is Edufuturists. We love you, and we'll see you next time, everybody.
Thanks,
See you,
guys.
everybody.
Later. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.